Good afternoon, everyone. This is the November 18th, 2020 Norwood Airport Commission meeting. This meeting is on the go-to meeting format and is also being recorded by Norwood Community Media. Is there any other entities out there recording this meeting? With that, first on the agenda tonight, first of all, Russ, do you mind starting off with just a little discussion about former Commissioner Joe Barker?
Excuse me?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we got word a few weeks ago that former Airport Commissioner Joe Barker had passed away on October 29th at the age of 91. Commissioner Barker was also a former member of the Combat Infantrymen's Association, Norwood Sportsman's Club, and the Norwood Elks. He was a licensed pilot here for many years and often enjoyed flying his plane from Norwood, from the Norwood Airport to Cape Cod and the islands. He was appointed to the Airport Commission on September 18th, 1990, and he served more than 20 years on the board. Again, he was a private pilot and was well known on the airport. During his time on the commission, the airport underwent some major upgrades, which included the reconstruction of both runways, several taxiways, and a number of the aircraft parking aprons. He was also a commissioner for many of the security upgrades following 9/11, and he served on the commission during phase one of the administration building project. It's not an overstatement to say that Joe loved spending time at the airport. He was often a daily fixture here, and just wanted to pass along on behalf of the Airport Commission our condolences to the Barker family.
Thank you, Russ. I second that. Joe did love Norwood Memorial Airport. He served our country well, and his legacy is right on Norwood Town Common. Joe and his wife donated a beautiful stone memorial dedicated to combat infantrymen. So that's something that's will be here for many, many years, and our condolences to the Barker family. So, Russ, thank you for saying that. With that said, get going with this meeting. First on the agenda is AIP project updates with Du Bois and King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Jeff Adler with Du Bois and King. So first I'll update on the environmental assessment that we're doing for the paved safety areas and for taxiway Charlie. So that we did file with the MEPA office at the end of October, which is the first step to file a notice of project change. Like I said, that was filed the end of October, which included our preferred alternatives for both the the paved safety areas as well as the taxiway Charlie relocation. So the schedule for that would be, we anticipate to hear by the end of December, because they have 60 days to respond to that. So at the end of 60 days, they'd respond, and it's likely that, or our hope is certainly that they will accept our preferred alternative, and that we'll continue to keep moving through the permitting process. In the meantime, we're still putting together the documents for the EA, doing some preliminary design that's going to be needed for permitting that's going to occur into next year. So yeah, so we're going to continue to move forward, and with the goal of getting all permits in hand and our variance by at the end of 2021. Any questions on the EA?
While you're here, Jeff,
Yep.
we do have a invoice in regards to that.
Yes.
Pay request number 2 to Du Bois and King.
Yep.
For the environmental assessment that you just mentioned. The total amount is $25,760.70, and it's 100% paid for by the FAA. So I look for a motion to pay request number 2 to Du Bois and King for the environmental assessment project.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor? Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Jeff, also in regards to that, is a reimbursement request. Is that something we have to vote on for my signature for that project?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's just the annual accounting that FAA requires. It just basically documents the money that has been spent to date and what is left to be spent. So it's more of an accounting thing for FAA.
Okay, is this something that a vote needs to be made? For signature?
Yeah, I mean, I leave that up to you. I think it's just an accounting. I don't know that it would hurt to have it voted upon, but it's money that's already been expended.
Okay, so why don't we, I'll just say, what's that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sheehan.
so Jeff, I'm assuming the larger number in this 234983 is what's spent, and is the smaller one 32532 left to be spent, and does that have to be spent this year?
That is what's left to be spent, and no, it does not have to be spent this year, even though it'll be spent by the end of next December.
Okay, and these reports get filed with the FAA?
Correct.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize Du Bois and King to file the necessary federal financial reports with the FHA.
And for my signature as well?
And for your signature, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Thank you. So for both projects, their motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Thank you. So then, so Jeff, you're going to go on to the next project, the post-monitoring years 1 and 2. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just as a requirement by Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection at the completion of Taxiway Alpha, where we installed a wetland mitigation area. That requires actually 5 years of post-construction monitoring, which involves inspections and reports to Mass DEP to verify that the mitigation area is performing as anticipated. So that's, like I say, that's going to be, going on over the next 5 years. This is just the first 2 years. So we do have a pay application in front of the commission today for the work that's been done over the last few months on that project. And that is in the amount of $5,449.85, of which, again, it's 100% paid for by the FAA. So the total amount of the invoice is $5,449.85.
Is there a motion to pay request number 2 for the post-monitoring years 1 and 2 to Du Bois and King for the amount $5,449.85?
So moved.
Motion made,
Second.
seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. All right. Next on the, Jeff, anything else? Or
Well, I was just
anyone?
going to say, yeah, we did have for this year's upcoming construction project meeting in 2021, we had our pre-design meeting for which is going to be for the Taxiway Delta relocation that was not completed as part of the Taxiway Alpha realignment, as well as obstruction removal to the 4 runway approaches. So we had our pre-design meeting. We'll be putting together contract for that and be moving ahead with, design over the winter to put the project out to bid in the March timeframe. And then schedule will be to apply for a grant application to FAA, on or before May 1st, and construction for mid to late next summer.
So for the people at home, Taxiway Delta is going to be shifted, realigned. This is a safety project, Jeff?
That's
so
correct,
there's-
right. Prevents
Right.
a direct connection from an apron to a runway. So
Okay.
FAA now requires those to be jogged.
Correct. And then just so people at home know, obstruction removal, you're talking trees.
Trees, correct, trees, yes.
Not taking any buildings down, are we?
No.
All right.
No, so this is
excellent.
based, yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this is based on, as most of you probably recall, as part of the master plan, we did an AGIS survey, which is an aerial survey to FAA standards to identify things such as trees and any obstructions in the approaches. And so we've had that data, and now we're going to finish analyzing that and actually use it to remove any obstructions so that, again, we should, so the whole intent is not to have any issues with the FAA flight standards and flight procedures that, you know, would prevent, potentially lose, you know, approaches to the airport.
Great. Thank you. Anything else for Jeff? All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Next up on the meeting agenda is the October 14th regular business meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the October 14th regular business meetings as presented.
Motion made
Seconded.
and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Next on the agenda, airport managers report. Russ?
Mr. Chairman, aside from the written report, from which I'll solicit any comments, questions from the board, I just wanted to note the work that's been done outside the airport, actually. And this has been done by the Public Works Department to repave and remark access road leading through our abutting neighborhoods to the airport. The work, it really turned out great, and it very much enhances the image of the airport. So I appreciate all the work that was done to address access road recently. Otherwise, what wasn't in the report, the written report, was that this morning through the early afternoon, we supervised, airport management supervised and coordinated a project by the National Grid through its contractor to restore some of the paved surfaces that were initially disturbed when the gas line was trenched to the Welch Administration Building. And that locus of work included the Gate 1 lane, also the western edge of lots ABC, which runs parallel to the Welch Administration Building. So aside from that, I'll let the written record, the written report stand unless there are any questions.
So
Mr.
Russ,
Chairman,
so the gas trenches being the final pavement, so they started that today?
They did, and it looks like they buttoned it up pretty well.
Great, great.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sheehan?
yeah, I'd just like to know two things. One's from the airport manager's report. He reports that October 2020 was the busiest October in the past 3 years. So I think that's a credit to the staff at the airport and the users there. And I also just wanted to point out that those of us that are town meeting members, and the town publishes the annual report every year. And the cover this year of the annual report was pictures of Norwood Airport. And I think that this goes to how important the Norwood is to this community, that the town selectman and the town manager felt it important to have Norwood Airport highlighted on the front cover that goes out to all town meeting members and any member of the public. And I think that's, again, a credit to the airport staff and this commission. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. I agree. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the cover of the annual report. And Norwood Airport is important to the town and the region and part of the whole transportation network. So that was great. One of the things, the airport manager's report, Russ is talking about energy saving initiative. This is switching out some of the lights installed back in '07 of the Welch building with new LED lights. And Russ, we're talking potential savings of $13,000 a year in electrical costs, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Also, we're looking at, we've actually already addressed some of the ramp lighting that is just north of Flight Levels Complex where the helicopters operate. We thought it was a good opportunity to upgrade some of that lighting as well and illuminate some of the darker corners of the airport. So that work is underway, and want to recognize the facilities department, the new facilities department in the town, and all the work that they're doing, not only for the airport department, but for the other departments in the town.
Yes, they're a great asset, and it's working out well. Russ, on the hangar, quickly, lot ABC, hangar construction, just quickly give an update to the members and the public on how that's progressing.
Sure, we're having weekly meetings. Those are on Friday mornings at 10 o'clock. Flight Level and its general contractor, site management has been doing a great job. There's been a lot of work on site preparation, a lot of earth moving going on. There's some coordination with the Conservation Commission. Air traffic control has been involved as well, and we've had FAA involved on the utilities end of that project. We'd like to also thank the Norwood Airport Business Park. The tenants that abut the airport have been very cooperative in working with the town, with Flight Level, in providing an access route through the Norwood Airport Business Park directly to the site, which is actually minimizing a lot of the what would otherwise be an impact operationally to the on the aircraft operating area. So we've had quite a bit of cooperation from our neighbors on that. But there's some environmental work. There's a lot of site prep, a lot of earth moving equipment. So it looks like they're making some real headway.
Thank you, Russ. Anything else? Airport managers report.
I have nothing.
Motion, is there a motion to accept it?
Motion to accept the airport manager's report as published.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Thank you. Under old business, Southern Airways, we voted to allow up to 10 parking spots in the parking lot area to be reserved. Russ, you're not looking for a vote or anything, just an update that you got a sign design that you are happy with, and we're going to proceed with that work.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. I don't necessarily need an approval of the commission. I've given Southern Airways some direction on this, and the sign design looks fine. I understand that Public Works will actually fabricate and install the signs, and then Southern Airways will be charged to reimburse the town. I know that Mr. Sistari is on the line, and he had wanted to provide a quick update on where Southern Airways is at right now.
Great, great. Welcome, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, everyone, it's been an interesting couple months. I just wanted to give you a brief update on what's going on with us. After having a terrific summer and September that was up 70% over last year, things changed dramatically for us and for the whole industry starting in October. This latest round of COVID has really caused a collapse in demand on Nantucket. Most of the activities that fuel the shoulder season, including the holiday stroll, which is a huge hit, all the Thanksgiving merrymaking and food things also suspended. So we saw a dramatic drop in our bookings starting around Columbus Day, and that has continued for the worst. So as of the 14th of November, we have made a fairly drastic schedule reduction here in New England, and we are now flying at Norwood, Nantucket on Monday morning, Friday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon only. The reality of the entire industry, whether you're Southern Airways or American Airlines right now, is you just have to cut costs as drastically as you can and preserve as much of the infrastructure that you can to not have to go back and rebuild things from scratch, whether that be maintaining your fleet, maintaining your equipment, maintaining your personnel, maintaining your brand in these markets. So we wanted to protect the Norwood customers who have been very loyal to us, many of whom have second homes. And after canvassing them, the Monday, Friday, and Sunday schedules seem to be one that they could live with in terms of getting back and forth to their second homes. Unfortunately, the holiday business that we had hoped for and the leisure travelers that we had hoped for, you just can't make people fly at this time if they don't have an absolute necessity to do that. Company-wide, we have been renewed in 5 of our essential air service markets, which gives us a base of about $15 million of annual business for the next 2 years. Obviously, that is very important in maintaining, our fiscal strength. We have been working very hard in Hawaii with local officials there to try to get the government to ease some of the intra-island restrictions that have really put a bite on us there. So, I mean, to be perfectly candid with you all, we are hunkering down. The hope of the vaccine is encouraging, but it's going to be a long, cold winter for a lot of people in New England, including Southern Airways. So we'll get through this, but without the level of service that we had hoped for just 2 months ago.
Mark, I don't think anyone is surprised the way business is going with the latest COVID numbers. And, I'm just myself grateful that you're still going to keep some service here. So thank you for that update. And any other commissioners have any thoughts or comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, no, Mark, thank you. You've been a great addition to Norwood Airport, and we all know that one day things will get back to normal, and I think when that happens, Southern Airways will be flying high again. So thank you for staying with us, and it's appreciated. And just one thing, I know Russ says we don't need a vote, but I believe we should vote on this this plan that was recently sent out. I think John has a copy and I have a copy. I just think we should have it approved. So I'll make the motion to approve the plan and the signage as presented in the email provided on October 23rd from Russ to Southern Airways and the CC to the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. A motion has been made
And second?
and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to drop off at this point. Good to see everyone and have a good Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Same to you.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda, some new business. Russ's airport manager's report recognized a snowstorm on October 30th. So I think it's good that we get snow removal agreements with 2 of our contractors. Russ, want to take it from here?
Mr. Chairman, we've got 2 contractors. They both have spent years here on the airport working under the direction of the airport management. These are snow removal contracts for PJ Hayes Incorporated and Civitoni Construction. I already have insurance certificates for both contractors, and the rates are the same as the DPW rates for its contract support, and recommend a motion to approve both contracts.
So moved.
Motion has been made.
And second?
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda, ATP is looking to install signage on the building number 6 on the north side and the south side. The south side facing the parking lot, the north side facing the airport. They would like our conditional approval so they can approach the building inspector to get a sign permit to install the signs, and you have the layout and the letter in front of you. So just conditional approval so they can go forward to the building inspector.
I motion to give ATP provisional approval to present an application to the building inspector to approve the signs as presented in their schematic with their letter from November 16, 2020.
Motion made.
I have one question, Mr. Commissioner, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. So is this the proper protocol for this to conditionally approve the sign and make, I mean, I've looked at it, it looks fairly, it's only basically 2 colors, red and white. And it appears to be 8 foot by 2 foot. But do we have to approve this sign before he can go there? Or is there a different, does he have to go to the sign, the
Building
planning,
inspector?
the planning board for signage, or can the building inspector and sign that off?
Yeah, it falls under the building inspector. You could do it either way, Mr. Cochran. If he went to the building inspector, I'm sure the building inspector would want our input, and waiting for the next meeting would delay it. So this would expedite it. If they get conditional approval now, they can go right to the building inspector and hopefully get the permit. If not, they have to come back to us.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was the proper protocol. That was all. And I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. In your package, new business, Tasso's Euro Cafe. So it was identified by the Architectural Access Board that the handicap parking for Tasso's was not as close as it should be. So they are requiring the parking spaces be provided closer to their entrance. And Flight Level, being the landlord, hired Norwood Engineering, which provided a plan which met Architectural Access Board requirements. And those parking spaces were redelineated by the Norwood Public Works Department in front of Tasso's. So that's just an update on that. And the next is Flight Level has made a request looking for our approval, but I don't think approval from us is necessary. This is to install parking spaces across from Lot G on Flight Level property. There is a plan of that provided by Norwood Engineering on behalf of Flight Level. And those parking spaces would be on Lot Z, which is within the 1,100-foot strip, which is BMA property and being leased by Flight Level. And they're looking to, I guess, any objection to putting these parking spaces on Lot Z. And I talked to Russ. Russ sees no issues with that. It's outside the TOFA, so the TOFA won't be encroached upon. It'll provide parking for tenants on Lot Z and Lot G, which Flight Level is working towards conforming to the TOFA that was recently approved under the technical master plan. So personally, I don't think we have to vote for or against for this. I think it's more of a informational, and if there was a safety issue, Russ could talk about that. But Russ, you're okay with parking spaces as shown?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any objection to it. As you noted, it's outside the object-free area. There is a need for vehicle parking in that quadrant of the airport for both Lot G and flight level tenants and other parties that are using the northern part of the airport. So I don't have any objection to the location of that vehicle parking.
And on Lot G, there's some parking spaces at Flight Level, who is the leaseholder is talking about relocating or eliminating, but that's up to them. That's on their leasehold. We're not asking them to remove it. And that's also on BMA property. So I don't think a vote needs to be taken, honestly, about this. It's just really information that Flight Level is going to install parking spaces. And there's no objection from the airport manager. I don't think there's any objection from, from us as well. So how would you like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know that in Attorney Burlingham's letter, his opinion does not believe consent is required, and I trust him to be correct, but can we just confirm that with our counsel before we give an informed information? If our counsel can just weigh in on it, that Nick is correct and that all they need from us is they've informed us, and we affirm that we do not object. And I'm fine.
Yeah, so by any chance, Nina Macarius, are you on board?
I am here. Mr. Sheehan, I don't want to complicate the matter because Mr. Ryan is most likely right that no action is needed from the commission one way or another. We did receive just a couple of hours prior to the call, a letter from BEH objecting to the request sent to me and to counsel for Flight Level. I've only been able to read it. I don't have the underlying leases or any of the underlying material, and haven't had even an opportunity to speak to Russ or Mark about it. So while it appears that Mr. Burlingham's letter, he's got his analysis of it, I can't one way or another say that nothing is needed under their lease because I haven't seen it to consent to it. They haven't raised any, they're suggesting there isn't any. And I'm not sure of the factual accuracy of BEH's objection to it either at this point. So my suggestion would be to take no action now and give us an opportunity to look at it before your next meeting, if any action is needed. If none is needed, you don't even need to put it on your agenda again. It just moves forward. It doesn't need to come back to the commission.
I'm comfortable with that position as advised by counsel, Mr. Ryan.
So, Nina, what if Flight Level just decided to go and paint those parking spots, after this meeting? Is that something we can't stop them from doing that, can we?
Well, again, I'd want to see the lease and the terms of what they have rights to that area under, right? So if it's under their lease, I'd want to see that, assuming there's nothing in there that requires prior approval from the commission and their analysis of that's correct. No, you can't stop it. if there's some reason that BEH has some other competing right there, it wouldn't necessarily mean that the airport has any obligation or ability to stop it. Maybe that it's a dispute between the two parties. But again, at the moment, without seeing the lease, I can't say for sure that you don't have any rights to stop it. They clearly wanted you to know about it ahead of time. So I would just, ask for their at least brief patience while we look at those documents. It's hard to assess a letter without the underlying property documents that it refers to.
All right, so is there a motion to take no action until further information is gathered?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question regarding this.
Yes, Mr. Cochran.
Second paragraph, third line down, it says, I also explained that while Flight Level would seek to enforce the no parking sign with respect to all other entities, it would not seek to enforce it as to the Lot G subtenants until alternative parking plan was in place. I mean, what type of enforcement are they talking about? Is this going to be calling the Newark police down to the airport because somebody parked their car there and they don't have record of whose vehicle it is? Or is it, what type of enforcement is it? Is it going to be, they're going to have the vehicle towed? I mean, can you actually tow the vehicle? I don't understand what they're looking for there.
Mr. Chairman.
What rights do they have to enforce that is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Attorney Burlingham, is that you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Corcoran. For the record, Nick Burlingham for Flight Level Norwood. So Flight Level is the controlling lessee of Lot G, and it has the right to enforce the airport rules on Lot G. One of the airport rules is that you can't put an obstruction in the TOFA. The problem that we had was that the hangar tenant leases for the 8 units on Lot G gave the tenants the permission to use the common areas. And at the time the leases were written, the parking spaces just north of the building on Lot G were the common area. So we really have a contractual duty to provide alternative parking before we can sort of move the unit lessees, our tenants, to a new place that complies with the TOFA. So that's why we are looking to move the parking across to the north of the Gate 3 taxi lane. And in the process, we actually were able to add 2 additional reserved spots that the unit owners on Lot G don't currently have. So their parking would go from 6 spaces to 8 spaces, and it would comply with the TOFA. And with respect to enforcement, our lease with BMA requires us to comply with airport rules, and our subleases with our tenants on Lot G require them to comply with the reasonable rules of Flight Level and also the rules of the airport. So to the extent that we have a reasonable alternative that complies with these laws, and we make that available to our tenants, if they choose to disregard it, we could default them under their leases, and in that way enforce the parking.
Okay, well, I agree that we should probably look at this a little further with town council and review it again.
Mr. Chairman, may I have one more word?
Attorney Burlingham, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason that we're trying to move this along is that we can only stripe the asphalt up to a certain time of year, and we're approaching that very quickly. If there was an ask that Flight Level had of the Norwood Airport Commission, it would be to conceivably study this and do a pretty quick turn, so that if there is no objection by Attorney Macarius, and town council, that we would be given the authorization to go forward without having to wait another month when we won't be able to stripe again. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Attorney Macarius, thoughts on that at all?
Sure. I mean, I guess respectfully, two things. One is if nothing is needed from the commission, then I don't see why that would be a problem. If that's the conclusion, that doesn't need to come back before you, then Russ can inform flight level expeditiously. If something does need to come to the commission, then that's just something we have to set up at the next commission meeting. And I guess the reason I started with respectfully is it is November 18th. That part was in flight levels control of when to ask. And so I can't, if the commission needs to take action, I can't sit here and say that I won't ask you to take action. I just need to look at the documents. We can do that very quickly. I can't imagine this is a complicated issue.
All right, so if you report back to Russ that there's no reason they can't follow through with that work, Russ can just let flight level know of your what you determined and just leave it at that?
I think that would be it from my perspective, yes.
Okay.
And I would also share that, since not sure if anyone from BEH is on the call, but with BEH's counsel, since he reached out specifically to us to do it, so we could report it back to both entities at the same time.
Okay.
For the sake of completeness.
All right, so we'll wait to hear back from what you find out, Attorney Macarius, okay?
Will do, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
right,
Chairman, do we need
yes.
a motion, for the new signage to meet the requirement by the access board? Do we need a motion to approve that?
What signage was that?
For Tassos? Do we need to make a motion to allow the handicap parking to be relocated?
Sure. Let's do that.
Yeah, so I'll make the motion to approve the plan as presented to the Norwood Airport Commission in the October 26th, 2020 letter from flight level that shows all the requirements of the accessibility board, of the architectural board, and the drawings and the location of the new handicap parking spots.
Motion has been made.
Okay, and this is the one that we said we were gonna take no vote on?
No, this is the handicap parking in front of Tassos.
Oh, okay. Let me just look at that real quick. Okay, I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Okay, we have many items of correspondence. Any vote on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to file the correspondence received, but I do want to note that we did receive an October 22nd letter from the FAA confirming what the Norwood Airport Commission has believed all along, that the Verizon lot was not a lot that could be used for aeronautical use. And in that letter, they confirmed it, and they sent us also a map. And that was good notice. And also note that the Part 16 complaint has been closed out by the FAA, and Norwood Airport is now in full compliance. And with that, I'll make a motion to place all the correspondence on file.
And I'll second the motion.
lose Mark? Russ? What? Did we-
Yes,
did we
I was
lose
just
him?
looking on the roster.
Oh, there he is. Okay. He's back.
We lost you there for a minute.
So, thank you, Mr. Sheehan. I suspect there was a motion to, in a second to file.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. We do have a need to go in executive session, and we'll need a motion to go into it. We will not return to public session. We will adjourn both executive and public session during this executive session. So a motion to that effect. Executive session purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the Norwood Airport Commission and Boston Executive Helicopter LLC versus Town of Norwood, and also for executive session meeting minutes of October 14th, 2020.
And we'll be adjourning from both the executive session and the regular meeting, correct, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct.
So moved.
Motion made
And second.
and seconded. Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Corcoran,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan votes yes. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.